Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery and I've got some bins that I'd like to feed. Usually I'm kind of on a 10-12 day schedule with feedings, but in this case we've allowed a little bit more time than usual to pass. In the case of the European nightcrawlers, and in this case it's actually two pairs of buddy bins. Like I've actually got, maybe these are better than buddies, I guess they've got the same exact birthday. So these ENC bins, these European Nightcrawler bins over here, they're the ones that are shown here as being the 290-day systems, the two 290-day systems. So far fed 25 times, and in the case of these, it's been 2 weeks since the last check-in. This is where we've been doing those side-by-side check-ins where the two bins are placed up on the bench at the same time together, worked on at once as if it was one large bin. And I thought I might do the same thing with this other pair of European Nightcrawlers. These don't have the same start date, but they were buddied up anyway. And in the case of these two systems over here, they've been sitting around for 13 days now since their last feeding. So it seemed like an opportune time to come back in here and possibly deal with all the European Nightcrawlers, treating these a little bit different, trying to do that single system check-in approach of just opening up both systems side by side and dealing with them as one unit. And over here too, we've been doing this interesting thing with the compostable bag over a month now. The younger of the two systems, that's the one that's been running this compostable, supposedly compostable bag. So we're going to get these up on the bench. We'll start with the older ones first, and we're going to get them fed. The assortment of foods that I bought for these guys is kind of jumbled up in this big mound here. It's frozen. I've got 4 banana peels because there's going to be 4 tubs. There's 4 replacement feeding zone indicators, so there's 4 coffee filters. And it just so happens that I've got my little secondary container here. So I thought maybe we can actually utilize our storage space here to prep this food a little bit for a more easy distribution. Right now in these big frozen mounds it's a little bit difficult to divvy it up, so it does seem like this is actually going to let me split it, oops, and hopefully without me making a huge mess. I guess splitting it isn't so important. It's not that I'm trying to, have 2 pieces per se, but at least even if it all went to shreds it would be better because I just want to be able to distribute it, evenly. So, I don't know, we've got various piles of stuff here. Maybe we can figure out a way of distributing this evenly, and I guess I got a couple more minutes here for this stuff to thaw out before we actually apply it. We're going to have to get things uncovered and ready for us to pile in today's goodies. So yeah, let's put the goodies aside so we can actually get access, right? So, oops, a little bit of vegetable matter here. So I guess we must have been running pretty low on coffee filters last time, because it looks like we've got 1 coffee filter that was set up, torn in half, and shared with both systems to be the feeding zone indicator to show where we last fed. These paper coverings were all placed in here. They were new last time, and they're holding up good. So while I have material that we could use to replace it with, I figured let's let them have it back, let them continue on it. The feeding zone indicator, though, since we've got nice replacements, we're going to upgrade them with new ones in the place of those. That stuff it'll just go down into the feeding area as supplementary bedding, I think. Yeah, but those top coverings, we'll go one more time. Alright, so now I did breeze through the videos of both systems, both of these systems and the other 2 systems being fed. In the case of all of them, it was fruits. There was cantaloupe, there was strawberry, there was cucumber, and in the case of the cucumber was actually delivered as sort of a cucumber sandwich on a piece of moldy hard roll. And it was like kind of a long, kind of a submarine sandwich or a grinder or whatever that's called I know it's one of those words that's different in different places. But basically one of those foot-long sandwiches you get at the Subway restaurant is what I'm referring to. Kind of a hoagie roll. Am I missing any of the common names for it? All right, let's excavate the other bin too, so we can pile in today's feeding. Got a few worms, but I don't think there's any harm in, transporting one or two European night crawlers from one system over into the other. All right, what do we have here? Here, seems like we are actually encountering some leftovers of something. I don't remember seeing anything in the other one, which was interesting. I mean, to me that just seems interesting only because of the fact that I am running these systems side by side, and they are being treated equally, so they've probably been given the same sort of stuff over time. And when I find leftovers in one of them but not in the other, kind of makes me wonder why is the result different. Although sometimes I do throw myself a little twist in some of those cases. One system gets something, the other doesn't, and we'll see that in the other two systems, where one of the systems is composting a supposedly compostable plastic. Well, I try so hard not to call it a plastic bag, but I guess it does resemble a plastic bag, a produce bag, that says on there in black and white that it's compostable. Okay, so let's make sure we're not taking any little wormies for a ride across the wormery and to a dry, scary place. Get them off my gloves so I can go take a step aside and get some fresh bedding for this. So this bedding that I make in advance is shredded paper and cardboard, and then it's combined and dampened. It's combined with leaves, and then it's all made damp so it sticks together a little bit. So it's not all dusty and dry, but it's also got a little bit of moisture to it. So we're going to place some of this right below where the fresh foods are going to get applied. And that would also be the proper place to put this leftover paper towel, maybe? I don't know. It just seems weird that we didn't see anything like that over in the other one. Let's not forget, we also wanted to put these old feeding zone indicator fragments, each one has one, back into the system as an active composting item now, not just a covering or an indicator. So every one of these bins is going to get, first of all, a nice banana peel. And then let's see, this thing's got a good bit of weight to it. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to best divvy this all out in such a way that we leave enough, hopefully about half of this for the other two systems we're feeding afterwards. So let's just be careful not to over apply this stuff. Let's sprinkle everything that's loose out. That might help us better see what we've got here in terms of needing to be chipped up. That is, if we still need more. Do we need more? I think we could probably still spare a little bit more of this stuff and then leave the rest for the other two systems. Although, yeah, maybe we've already divvied it out evenly. We're pretty close to that, if you ask me. What do you think? It's not the only things that they're getting. They're getting a nice assortment of different stuff. Usually the food gets a little sprinkling of grit. Usually I bring in a couple days worth of coffee. It's so weird, like it just feels like I'm working on one system when I'm doing this. I'm kind of just working my way across as if there was no divider here. One big system. Yeah, that would be kind of cool to have something this large, but well, I don't have anything like that. So I do have a couple coffee filters that we're going to bring in as the indicators to show where we fed, but now we don't have to share one in the middle. We've got one per system to sort of bring us back to reality that we're dealing with two systems here, not one. But I think we can get the, I don't know, should we? Yeah, maybe we should. It feels to me like we could probably go a little bit more generous with the bedding. Because I think once we till up these outer edges beyond where we just reset the feeding zone, I think that stuff after it gets fluffed up will kind of lift up a little bit too, and then we'll end up with pretty much even terrain here. It'll also give us a little chance to see how the worms on the outskirts are doing. Looks like they're actually enjoying being out there. There's a lot of them out there. Somehow I always expect that I'm going to find the majority of the worms. Hey, it's a cork. Let's drive that down. Oh, geez, what did I just do? Oh, no. Is it a cork or is it a corn cob? It's got to be a corn cob. Okay. I thought I had found the cork, but I don't even think the cork is in these systems. Just that when I pressed on it, it just broke, shattered. And if that had been the cork that's been going from system to system to system for years now, here in my wormery, and I think it even started outside, maybe in the outdoor system. If that thing were to shatter into little pieces, it would be the end of an era. An end of the cork composting era. I think that era is going to last a long time. Because I think that cork is going to take a very long time to break down. Alright, you know, I feel somehow like I'm spending a little more time here than I need to. I guess I'm going slow. I feel a little bit hesitant because I'm operating so close to the edge here. And by the edge, I'm just referring to like the top edge in terms of the rim that's preventing me from spilling stuff all over the room. Especially after we pile in a few handfuls of bedding. Now suddenly we actually bought the level of the stuff and we fluffed everything up. So we just, you know, kind of created something that was pretty full and in good shape already, and then turned it into something even more full, it seems. So I feel like I should have maybe gotten the other bin caught up with being backfilled and tilled up before we went to coverings, right? I'm trying to treat this as one system, right? I've got to continue thinking that way when I'm doing stuff, so it does look kind of cool though. I mean, when everything is kind of consistent across both bins. Here, yeah, it is beautiful material down in these systems. And every now and then I'm just bumping into little stems of leaves, and like before too, corn cobs. So there's clearly all kinds of leftovers floating around out here in these systems that the worms are still working on, and they're perfectly content to be out in these outer edges, furthest away from where the feedings have been getting applied. Oh my goodness. Look at all these worms in this material. Very nice. Another corn cob. I always have this like feeling like I want to submerge it and do so right in the middle, you know, keep all the food centralized and together, but you know, there's really no reason to. Makes no difference. In fact, I would even wonder if it maybe restricts them from getting to some of it versus having it spread out all over the place, having it in a big pile in the middle. I don't know. Let's see. I only had a few hitchhikers on me, but I think we're almost ready to cover up here too now. Let's see. Same as before, we've got a replacement feeding zone indicator. Each system getting its own now. Let's get back to being civilized here. And then cover up. All right. And in here we've been doing this side by side for a while now. This is really where we sort of piloted, but I feel like the pilot program has kind of come to an end, and I think the decision has been made that it is kind of cool doing it that way, or at least from my point of view it is. I find it enjoyable. So let me swap these bins out for the other two that we're feeding, and then we'll pick up where we left off momentarily. Before opening things up here, I figured it might be a good idea to come in here with the knife and break apart some of these larger chunks that were, without the knife, not going to come apart. So now I've got, you know, material pretty much divided evenly here in terms of, you know, being able to divvy it out fairly to both systems when we get to feeding, not having to struggle and wrangle with a piece of frozen food there. Let's see. Here it looks like we, you know, here we're not looking for consistency between these bins and those bins, because it's not like we're treating them all as the Euros, because the Euros are not all being treated the same. So as for example, you can see they had feeding zone indicators here. Each system had its own. And they're holding out, but we don't need to force longevity on these because we've got their replacements waiting in the ranks. So we can get rid of those. Here we're obviously really generous with the leaves, sprinkling them all across the top surface here. And the stuff down here in the middle where the moisture was circulating the most. Right above the food and right beneath the plastic. Definitely got some good dampness. Now, I'm also seeing springtails, lots of them. Look at them all. Yay. Alright, well, whatever. I'm not going to let that faze me. Over here in the younger bin, I'm expecting to bump into the plastic bag, or, well, I got to stop calling it that because it's not necessarily plastic. Who knows what it is? The important thing is that it's supposedly compostable. So I'm starting to see some of the things that were placed in here as the food last time, and somehow it feels like, yeah, look at that, it's not all been eaten. Looks like some mold growing on what's left of the melon, still adhering to its skin. And here we go. You can even see the writing on it. I'm trying to be really careful with this stuff, because if it starts developing lots of holes on its own because of the worm activity, that's one thing, and that's really what I'm waiting to see, is how long that happens over time, if it even happens. So I'm really trying to, prevent myself from being the cause for the material to have holes in it or tears or anything like that. So here we go. We uncovered this side of it. And over here I could see through it already. There's a hole that goes clear through both layers. Over here is going to be the end that I tied off, so I didn't want worms crawling into the thing, not knowing what to expect from the breakdown process. Now I'm holding it up to the light so that the window, and yeah, I could definitely see it. There's holes. 1, 2, 3, numerous holes developing. So I don't know if it's being consumed and that's really the compostable nature of it. Is it just dissolving because of the ongoing presence of the moisture, and then the worms are maybe slurping it up gradually? I don't know. But the test will continue. I see some more leftovers here. I wonder if that's what we're going to see in the other system. Let's just complete the excavation of the feeding zone in both systems. And here too, since it's all Euros, I don't think there's any big harm in going from one bin to the next and having hitchhikers. If I was dealing with two systems where I was trying to have one type of worm breed live in one system and another in the other, then making sure you're not going to sort of cross-contaminate one bin with another type of worm is something to pay more attention to. But a couple worms coming over makes no difference. So here too, we're going to see how they did as far as leftovers go on the last feeding. Here we're not going to find a compostable bag, but here we are finding something similar. Here it doesn't have that orangish color as it has over there in the other system, but it's the cantaloupe rind, perhaps a little bit more consumed so that orange stuff is all gone at this point. This might just be shreds of paper, leftovers of the bedding we applied last feeding. Oh, look at that. Stem of a pumpkin, pretty good sized one, holding up pretty good. Surprised we didn't find one in the other system. Maybe there is one over there, but we missed it. Which can happen, obviously, especially if you're not like explicitly going out looking for stuff. Here's another piece of pumpkin. So it seems like we're pretty big on pumpkin stems. Usually in these buddy bins you find similar stuff in the two systems that are being fed and managed very similarly to one another. So maybe we just missed a few chunks of pumpkin stem over there. I guess we could take one more quick look, see if anything large is looming right in the outskirts of the section that we excavated. Maybe there is some value in kind of bouncing back and forth a little like that. Here I can definitely feel a lot more moisture. Over here everything seems a lot more crumbly. I don't even know visually, maybe it's something you could pick up on. It almost makes me feel like saying, maybe we'll grab some of my pre-dampened bedding to use in this one, but maybe to help dry stuff out there. Maybe I just grab some of the stuff that this is based on, which is just some dry material that's not been combined with anything or has not been dampened. In fact, I got leaves. Why don't we use leaves? That should help absorb some of that moisture, I think. So, a little slight deviation, really just in the interest of being able to provide this system with a much drier bedding as part of its feeding versus what this system's getting here, which is pre-dampened, prepared bedding. Give them a little bit of these leaves too, just so they don't feel left out. And then we can proceed with giving them their yummy foods. Let's not forget we're recycling some stuff here and giving it a new purpose, a more noble task, which is to accompany the feeding down in the feeding area rather than just sitting out on the surface as a feeding zone indicator. And then let's see, I guess the way I had envisioned this was that whatever's on this side was going to go to one system, sort of. This piece is just still a big lump of ice, basically, as it is on this side. And to me, that kind of looks like we've got ourselves a pretty fair split on what they've been given to eat here. I've got the got those bananas too, so that even adds to the luscious feeding. Look at all that delicious food. We're going to need these momentarily too, these feeding zone indicators. Do we need to open these up? I don't think we do. The worms can figure it out, right? Got some more leaves down here hiding beneath the coffee filters. Okay. And even the coffee filters are still hiding a little bit of coffee. Oops. Alright, so some of the stuff down here on the bottom is a little bit drier. You can see just the difference in color here. So on with the coffee, in with the worm chow. And I definitely like the idea of adding more bedding just like we did before. Even if it's just a little sprinkling, why not? Let's do it. Usually I'm trying to be careful. I don't remember the last time I checked my glove though, so let's be careful. I don't think we needed to that time. Hopefully we didn't strand any poor little wormies anywhere. But I think we're getting there. Oh yeah, let's not forget, bring these delicious leftover morsels that we encountered along the way. Get them back into service, back into action, right in the hot zone. Look at that thing. All that leftover melon not yet been peeled off and eaten. That's the juicy stuff. That's what they should be after. All right, very nice, very nice. All right, well, let's see. I guess there's also the strategic positioning of this thing being right above all the food too, although maybe it would be more strategic to, like, you know, have food on it too. So for that purpose, why don't we use that as a reason to come in with some more of my worm chow here and do that. That should definitely make that top material out there much more interesting for the worms to want to explore and check out. Out here we get to now check out some of this leafy material from last time that had been sprinkled out across the top surface. I could definitely see us doing that again over here to once again, I think, be there for the same basic purpose, which would be to maybe suck up a little bit of the moisture out here in this system. That's why I like the idea of blending some of this leafy material in with this stuff. I'm wondering if that might also be a good reason to sort of replace the top coverings a little bit more loosely, perhaps permitting a little bit of airflow. Allow this system to air out. The other system I don't think would even need that, so maybe only on this one we could leave a little kink in the plastic covering, leave a little section of it able to air off and hopefully get rid of some of its moisture, excess moisture, at least what it feels to me like excess moisture. I'm sure if you were to ask any of these little wormies about it, they'd be like, yeah, bring it on. More moisture the better. I don't know. That was just a dramatization. I don't know if worms actually sound like that. I don't think they do. But, yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. So, I think just to be fair, though, in terms of if we're going to, you know, deploy some top covering leafy matter again like we did last time, it's only fair to apply it to both. Despite the extra moisture over there, I think one deviation of covering more loosely at the end will be sufficient to account for the difference, and then we can call it even in terms of, you know, keeping these systems managed very similarly to one another, or at least attempting to. Yeah. Sometimes I also kind of question myself. You know, it's like, hey, if I had not gone in there and tilled the material up, would it have been better off? Possibly. You know, would there have been an advantage to not tilling if you had no real reason to think that it would be necessary or helpful? Sometimes I do wonder that, you know. But I think in the long run, I think it just helps for more porous, airy material. And, well, I think just in general, the less clumpy the material is, the better. That's my opinion. So I think before we put the feeding zone indicator on, let's go for it with the top coverings again. It's so nice how most of it, ooh, wow, that was a lot. Put some over here. The stick, get rid of the stick. All right, so put a little bit out here, and then perhaps having even more on the other one where we'd like to see some more dry material in there to soak up some of the system's moisture content. Maybe we are better off with what appears to be maybe a little bit more leafy material on the top of this one. That's cool. I think it'll be good in the long run. All that remains is covering up with our feeding zone indicators, covering up with the plastic, and calling it a day. Alright everyone, well, that's it for our check-in with all my European night crawlers, all 4 systems, both pairs of buddies, and twins in the case of the first 2, the older ones. These younger ones, they've still got a long ways to go. The older ones, though, those are definitely getting close to the finish line, I think. So, well, you know what? We've got newspaper here. You know, the newspapers were really placed out on top for shade and darkness underneath the plastic. It was tempting to use that as additional bedding, but I think we're good with the bedding we used. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel too. That's really appreciated as well. Alright everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.